Hey, my name is Mustafa Sharif, and thank you for listening to Urbanistica podcast. You read about it everywhere, you hear about it everywhere, and hopefully you work with it. SDG 2030. But this episode with an interesting person, and the story is about Beyond 2030. My guest, Marina, welcome to Urbanistica podcast. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Ready?
Yes.
Let's start with you. You're the storyteller. Tell us more about you, about your patient.
Yeah, so my passion in absolute terms is to help humanity explore our full potential, or humans. I would like to see where are we at in understanding our potential and how do we push those boundaries and understand what we really are about. And that really links back to why I'm so interested and passionate about sustainability. And my passion started a bit randomly in 2009 when I was in my bachelor. So it started a bit randomly and it caught my attention when I was in Germany as an exchange student. And since then, it became this life-changing, journey that is still ongoing. And it profoundly changed me to understand complexity and how that links back to how we live our lives. And so I moved country for sustainability.
Wow. What did you study in?
I'm technically from Italy. I mean, I'm from Italy, and I studied in no, it's a long story. Yeah, I'm from Italy. I studied at Bologna University, and when I was there, I studied international relations, and the whole idea was that I thought that to make changes, you needed to sit in the same table as Angela Merkel, Obama, and these guys. And so I thought I needed to be part of those conversations. So I was going for that kind of career. And then I went to Germany as an exchange student. And my faculty was opposite to this thing called Bioladen, like this bio store. And this was 2009. So
Okay.
It wasn't in Italy. We didn't talk about those things, and definitely not. I didn't really hear it before. Why should there be a store where you only can find organic and biological things? That was new. Maybe because of some things in Italy are very local and everything. And then in Germany, they had a big election, and for the first time in history, the Green Party won in actually the most conservative state in the German Federation. That was in Baden-Württemberg in the south. So that was a game changer. And there was the Stuttgart 21 project, the station renovation. So a lot was happening, and I started wondering, like, what is this all about?
Yeah.
So then I got an internship. Was lucky enough to be accepted in an internship in Germany. So I went back to the same city, actually.
Okay.
I ended up in the same city where I studied, in Heidelberg. And there I became involved in two research projects, and one was about sustainable transport systems, and the other one was about it was more like a socioeconomic analysis of why did the ambitious subsidy system in Germany for solar energy didn't work. The whole world was discussing it as a very innovative and powerful model that could have changed the energy system in Germany, but somehow, because it was so profitable for the individual, but somehow nobody wanted to benefit from it, and the government was very puzzled and didn't understand how come? Why did nobody pick it up? And there is when I made this first big mind shift, that the power is not necessarily on the top levels. The real power is us at the local level. So to make real change, you can make the best, invention, the best product, the best anything, policy from the top. But if you don't bring people along in the process, it won't work. So we share
it will
power.
not be functional.
Yeah.
If you don't have the bottom up or
Exactly.
top down.
Yes.
You need to have them all together.
Yeah.
But so this was during your bachelor or during your bachelor that you became mind blown by sustainability and especially more focused energy and greenery.
Yeah.
And what was the next step after the internship?
Yeah, the next step was actually coming to Sweden. I was advised by the head of the research institute in Germany. It's called IÖV, Institut für ökologische Wirtschaftsforschung.
Which in English means?
Institute for Ecological Economy Research. And the head of it advised me to study in this specific program in Lund that was unique. And in fact, 5 years later, he sent his own daughter to the same program.
Lund city is in the south of Sweden and it's very famous for its Lund's University, of course.
Yeah, it's a student town, very vibrant city. It's all about research and being a student.
So you moved to Lund to
Yes.
study. What was the name of your master program?
It's a Master of Science in Environmental Studies and Sustainability Science. abbreviated is called LUMES.
Loomis in Lund.
Yeah, in Lund. Yeah, LU for Lund University.
Great. And
Yeah.
the story started there or continued?
Yes, it continued there. So I was plunged into this program where it was an interdisciplinary program. So in my same class, there were psychologists, people from the government in Malaysia. It was there were teachers, there were all kinds of background engineers and pharmacists. Any discipline was somehow represented, and different ages. So I was pretty much the youngest one. We were we were a few just out of the bachelor, but others were really experienced. They
Wow.
took it as a specialization. And so what we did, we had to understand and unpack sustainability, but with this program we go deeper. This program is quite special in that sense, and that's why I was advised to go there, because it's not a program about sustainability applied to some sort of discipline like sustainable engineering.
Yeah.
It's more about the science of sustainability, which means it's very academic, and which means it's about finding new theories and frameworks and new ways of collecting data, of generating data, of analyzing data that actually make sense for what the science of sustainability has found
Yeah.
about how reality actually works.
But was it focused on like just on the economical aspect, the social, or like sustainability in general?
Exactly. It's the concept at this depth. I mean, what is sustainable? What does sustainable means? And what are the principles of sustainability? How do you create? The whole point was, how do we reframe challenges in their complexity? So stop trying to simplify and exclude most variables so that it becomes very linear and doable, but then it misses the complexity. If you miss the complexity, you're not doing sustainability, right? It's about reframing the challenges so that we can actually solve them.
Yeah, you can deal
Or
with them
tackle them, yeah.
in a realistic way.
Exactly.
More than just standing on a paper or like in a vision or without being really realistic.
Exactly.
Yeah. So 2 years of working with making sustainability real and touchable.
Yes.
And what was the next step after that?
After that, while I was graduating, I got involved in this team, and that was developing the first center for social innovation in Lund. So I went straight from being in this academic bubble into being part of the innovation ecosystem in Sweden as it was developing.
But you started, you mean like by your own, or there was a couple of other actors?
Yeah, it was a team of people that started it, and I got involved in the first probably 6 months after they started. So I was supposed to bring the bottom up and create the concept for social innovation from the bottom up. And so it was Andre Böcher who started it, and he was an engineer, and he thought, why is the university only funding research and projects that are supposed to be scalable and profitable only? Isn't the university supposed to, empower society 360 degrees? Why are we turning down those applications from people that maybe don't have necessarily a scalable idea, but a very powerful idea that locally can make a difference, right? So that's why we started a social innovation center, and the rector at the time supported us directly, so it went really really fast.
The approach is really great, but how did you make it?
I would say that there's a lot of politics everywhere.
Yes, of course.
It's we made it because it was the right time, and because we had the rector supporting us, but also the government, Vinnova specifically, that then later on created the social innovation unit.
Vinnova is
the innovation agency within the Swedish government.
Yeah, that funding innovative ideas.
Yeah,
and
projects.
Make them reals.
Yes, yes, exactly. And in Sweden, it's very special because it's so close to the people. So we were just students sitting somewhere in the south of the country, far away from the capital, but we could very easily access the government. So that's I would say, one of the things that makes Sweden very special. So it really is accessible, and you know about the calls. It's a smooth process. So that was the beginning of it, and it went really well because this is what happened. Our team created this vision and pulled in some actors. We did some need analysis across the country between entrepreneurs, researchers, and policy makers, and we analyzed the needs. But then what happened is that
the needs of
entrepreneurs, researchers, and policymakers for how what are the needs around social innovation? What would it take to bring about social innovation? For example, we need social entrepreneurship to help those ideas that could be scalable, but that are owned right now by people that do not have the business mindset, to transform any scalable ideas. Or it could be that we need to create like it can be anything. It can be that organization need to collaborate, new types of collaborations. It's really open in that sense. But the idea was, how do we make innovation something? How do we decouple innovation from profit and technology? Because innovation is more than technology and profit. Innovation can breed deeper ideas.
Yes.
And transform deeper. So and so after a while, in the beginning there was some resistance within the university because the innovation department,
as usual.
Exactly. So there was some resistance, but then when eventually they started to see what we saw, then the innovation department started, the traditional innovation department started saying, we do social innovation now. So for us, that was the achievement of our vision. Because
if I ask you, if you tell me what is social innovation in very, very light way, like in 2 sentences.
Is innovation designed to serve the needs of society?
Okay.
So it's societal, it doesn't have to be only social, it can mean socio-ecological, It was more of a reaction to innovation as technology.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you moved to Stockholm.
And then I moved to Stockholm.
Welcome to the capital.
Thank you. I made it from the village to the capital. So, and Stockholm, very interesting. Capital feel for sure. A lot going on. Very accessible. Yeah, so here my journey started. When you move out of a student university town, especially as an immigrant, it's a bit of a shock. Sweden is bigger than,
Yes.
these towns. So it was very different. Then I had to find my place in the world because I was 24, 25 as well. Yeah.
Very young.
And I guess after the bachelor and master right away becomes so when I moved away from this student town, I had to understand my place in the world, and I had to start from scratch without having studied sustainability science, although it was in Sweden, which was already quite progressive with sustainability even 10 years ago. I studied between 2011 and 2013, right? So it was still until last year, since the Greta movement started, things started changing. But before that, when I went around, imagine 2013, 14, I go around and people ask me, what do you do? Or what can you do? And I say, I'm a at that point I was a sustainability scientist. I help organization work with sustainability. I had 99% of the time people ask me, what is that? Even in Sweden, right?
Wow, okay.
So a lot has changed in the last couple of years.
Of course.
So I felt like an alien because in a way I came here to study this, but then you come to a big city and you need to, it's more about an identity, right? Because sustainability is quite deep. It calls for a deeper transformation. So it really has to do with your lifestyle, with your values, So you transform. Yeah. And then you feel a little bit like an alien, and you have two choices. Do you fit in the short run, and you hope that, the market will open up for sustainability, so to speak, so that you actually can be paid for doing that, and you have a job or a career, or do you just remain the alien until that point? And that's the path I chose.
Yes.
So it was a lot of...
Very brave. But may I ask you, when people were questioning your, your specialty, was like normal people in the streets, or you mean organization and business owners? Everyone.
I mean, the most,
almost, everyone.
Yeah.
So you think the movement that Greta started 2019 played the big...
Yes. I would love that somebody looks into how many jobs did Greta create.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really amazing.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you chose another path.
Yeah.
The tough one.
Yeah. For me, it was the easy one, but I understand it. From a financial perspective, it was the tough one. But,
So now you're working with SDG.
Yes.
Okay. Before we start, beyond 2030, which is your project.
Yes.
Let's start before 2030. Could you brief us?
So, Agenda 2030 came about in 2015, right? So now that I put things in perspective, I will tell a story. Imagine you're sitting in 2013, you're about to graduate in a Master of Science, whatever, from Lund University, about sustainability science, right? You have no idea that the industry and the world is not even discussing it fully, right? So what we were talking about is how do we convince people, how do we explain to organizations and businesses and governments that sustainability is important, right? That was the challenge. And then I remember that we were struggling with this, with working with sustainability for Rio, because you need to understand that there is a hierarchy between environment, society, and economy. It's not about this triangle people talked about or these bubbles that overlap and finding the balance. There is no such thing as finding the balance between society, environment, and economy. In reality, if we take away that we are the human species and we are creative and everything, but we need to be grounded in how things really work in reality. If we look at it like that, there is a very obvious hierarchy between the goals, and it's not about balancing them. So it's a small nuance in how you understand the concept that makes a huge difference in the outcomes on when you apply it, and in decision making, in business model design, everything. So that was the context, right? So when Agenda 2030 came about, it was a bit of a victory for the sustainability people.
Of course.
Yeah, it was amazing, because for the first time, the agenda came about on the 25th, between the 25th and the 27th of September 2015. And the same week, the Paris Agreement were signed. It's pretty much an in-depth analysis of what needs to happen for the climate goal to be even a thing, to be tackled. And in the Agenda 2030, what is special about it is that for the first time, environmental, social, and ecological and economical goals were put together in one agenda. Before, they were all treated separately, as if you can balance or discuss them and pick and choose. But the agenda was special because finally science was a little bit acknowledged for the first time, although it's 20, 30 years old science and knowledge. So that was exciting. And what was also exciting were two other things. It was global. It was supposed to be a way to get both developed and developing country on the same page into leading sustainable development. And when I was studying a few years before that, it was the biggest challenge was that developing countries and developed countries were kind of clashing on the science, because developing countries were arguing, saying that it's not fair that we have to cut emissions, that we have to do things differently because you are the one that created this problem. The developed countries have created the challenges, and now it's the developing countries cannot go to the same already paved path of development, industrialize and everything. Yeah. So they were kind of lost because they thought it's unfair, and we had this kind of discussions, right? Which are emotional. It's not rational, of course, but of course it's politics deciding this. So you had to go through that phase. But finally, in 2015, they all unanimously agreed. 193 countries that belong to the UN system. So unanimity was also very appreciated from the sustainability community. And when the two parts of the world come together, like the developing and the developed, understanding that okay, we need to move past our emotion, and we understand that we need to do something.
Yeah. So finally, there was a common language, showing a vision and a goals and a big approach.
Yes, and that was bringing everybody together.
Yes.
Because it's a lot about cooperating. It's a lot about developed countries giving and helping developing countries, because, of course, it's fair.
Yeah, of course. And there are 17 goals to work on. But Marina, what are the special with these goals?
So there are mainly three things that are special about it. And one is the fact that system thinking is slightly acknowledged, which system thinking is this idea in the science of sustainability where you understand that everything is interconnected and interdependent. So when you understand that, you don't try to argue for balancing between environment, society, and economy, because there is a hierarchy. There is no balance. Yeah. You don't discuss with nature. There is no way. We tried that. We are moving on. But that was one thing. So the fact that for the first time that the three pillars were acknowledged as one goal. They're not divided and to be approached separately. And the second thing was that it was global. It brought together developing and developed countries. And the third one is that it introduced impact assessment. It introduced indicators. So all countries are not supposed to only say, yeah, we signed this agenda and we like it and we think it's nice to do these things. They have to prove it. So they have to be accountable for it. And so we are adding thereby new indicators and new ways to define development.
So they're more measurable.
Yes, they're supposed to be.
So there's not only a vision, no, there's something you have to work to.
Which of course is a challenge in some countries. So it's not all perfect, but I'm just trying to be appreciative because in my community, if you have studied sustainability in step, you're not happy with the agenda. You're not supposed to be because it's a political agenda. It's a big compromise. Like 2-degree scenario for climate change is a political goal. It's not a scientific goal.
Okay.
Of course, it should be 0 degree. Why would we ever try to mess up a little bit with the climate system? Things like this. But of course, I'm trying to understand that I'm trying to be constructive and to be participating. So I had to step out of the research and academia to help in reality, and so I had to appreciate the agenda because that has the power to help us communicate and align and compare and help each other in a constructive way. Yeah.
And talking about reality, do you think the 17 goals are realistic somehow? Is it possible to work on them? I mean, my big question is, are we going to make it? It's just 10 years left to 2030.
If we continue as today, no. We're not doing enough. Or not. It's not about enough. We're not even, I think there is a lot of will, but I think there is a lack of leadership. I think at some point somebody has to step up and take decision at any level, from the small company to, the government. So I think that a lot more can be done. But I have a reason that I think about why it's not happening. And this is my why I call my initiative, my project, Going Beyond Agenda 2030. The agenda, as I said, is political so it's political and is in the hand and the responsibility of the national level. But at a local level, it's supposed to be municipalities helping, gathering the data and supporting the action locally, etc. But we're all involved, and we all need to understand that we can do more than the agenda. We can go beyond it because those are globally political goals. So imagine those are goals agreed upon and negotiated among people from very different economic realities and cultural backgrounds. So we need to localize, and at the local level you can go beyond that. You can do better than that.
Okay, so if I understand your concept or your idea with the Beyond 2030 is that we shouldn't really just stick to the Agenda 2030. There are so much to do beyond it.
Well, yeah, partly. I will try to say, I try to say it in 3 points, so that together is the beyond concept. But
of course, yeah, the mic is yours.
So that is one, that is a political agenda, and we need to own it at a local level and understand it, localize it is called, and understand what that means for the context. And then we need to acknowledge that the agenda is not perfect. I mean, it's it's a political agenda and global. How can it work for it's not a panacea, right? We need to understand that some things are missing. For example, mental health is very loosely defined or very narrowly defined. So if you have a deeper understanding of health, like mental and physical health and how they connect, of course you will look at the agenda and the goals and the targets and the indicators, and you will think something is missing. We're already actually doing more than this. Why would we not talk about it, right? So it gives you the flexibility of going beyond it and acknowledge that locally, but also it's about going deeper. That is where my starting point is. That's my whole approach. I don't come from politics. I don't come from the industry. I don't come from science necessarily. Well, I represent science, but in my own approach. And to go beyond means that we need to understand that the agenda is not a series of goals, actually. To me, is maybe midterm goals, so to speak, for humanity. Because we need to go deeper and discuss, what does that mean? What is humanity about? What is my life about? We need to go back to this philosophical question that triggered this whole journey and brought us to this point. But we need to reopen this question up and understand that sustainable development is deeper than we are making it look like, with just improving how things are done today. It's not about improving the machine,
Yeah.
It's not about tweaking and making it and optimizing it like engineers like to think,
Yeah.
It's about literally designing what is humanity's next phase. This is the first time in history, at least in some parts of the world, and others are catching up quite fast, where we have this opportunity to actually, we need to reinvent ourselves in the new era. Because if we have technology taking care of, most of the jobs, so to speak, if we will have more free time, and if we already figured out that a materialistic society was very good when we were not resilient, living exposed to nature completely, you know. But once we go past that stage, we all know that the fifth pair of shoes, the third trip to whatever, does not fulfill you, does not give you meaning. So for me to go beyond means helping organization and communities, can be a municipality, can be an organization, can be a group of people, to really take a step back and try to reflect. What do we want? What are we about? What do we want to be about? And what do we want our life to look like? What do I want my lifestyle to be about, right? What do I actually believe in? I don't have to do any of this, right? This is how I was given society. I was handed over society, but we have the power to reflect and really reshape the future, because we are at a moment where there is chaos. People are open and looking for new opportunities. So every company, every municipality, every city has the power to shape that vision and really contribute.
Well, the thing is that, first, I am working as an urban planner.
Yeah.
And we are following the Agenda 2030 to make sustainable cities.
Yeah.
And we find it's really, finally, we have a common language that we can talk with different actors. But if I am thinking about the beyond 2030, like, okay, it means that we need to step back, reflect about the agenda and beyond the agenda, which means that it might happen that we're gonna have different agenda one more time, because I'm translating on my own way, the municipality doing it in their own way.
Yeah.
How are we going to meet one more time?
What I mean is
If you got my...
Yeah, I see what you mean. So I would look at it like this, right? The agenda and the goals are common sense. That is nothing mind-blowing. Obviously, everybody wants clean air, access to fresh food, you know, doesn't want to worry about how something has been produced and, you know, feel guilty all the time. So to me, the agenda is simply should be, I mean, taken as a to-do list of things that needs to get done and out of the way, but it doesn't tell me anything of why you should do that. What's next? Imagine the agenda was solved tomorrow. Imagine that I don't know how people are envisioning it. That's the point, right? How are you actually envisioning it? Do you even think about a vision? For example, if you're a city, if you look at the agenda, it actually only tells you what, but not how and why. And that's what I'm trying to help with, right? You need to design the why, because this goes so deep into your values and belief system that, you should go deeper into your values and belief system to design why should you even engage with this, and what can it do for you. It's not only what you need to do for the agenda, but what can the agenda do for you, and really understand that you're having the responsibility to step up and speak your voice. If you're a city, you know, if you're a community, you need to understand that you have this opportunity and you need to take it. I'm very curious about anybody looking skeptically at what is happening in the discussion about sustainability and not actually thinking it through and contributing, because your value system is under discussion right now. What you can eat, what you can do, if you can drive an electric car or not, like what you will do in the weekend, where can you sit and not, you know, like everything is being challenged. So you have an opportunity to make it better and to make it how you believe it should be, and this is the time now. So everybody should be taking it as an opportunity. But then you need to reflect. So you need to start with the why, and then I help organization with the how, which is I use this framework called the theory of change, where we understand the difference between outcomes, output, outcome, and impact. So if you take the goals, they're more like, in my understanding of sustainability, they are more like outcomes. And to me, you need to understand what are you contributing to? What is your vision? The agenda is not the vision to me. So that's why I think many people get confused.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it seems like, we just cleaned up the energy system, and we just, make the car all all electric, and the clothes maybe will be recycled, circular economy, and that is all good. Is it? Maybe it is for you, but if it's not, you should be reflecting about that.
And
Have you reflected?
And this is the beyond 2030.
Yeah.
This is the beyond.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm super inspired now.
Okay.
I want you to tell me one example, like how do you do it? How do you design the how?
Yeah, the how is very boring. The why is more fun, but the how is more like, the agenda has these indicators, right?
Yeah.
There are some authorities collecting the data and you don't even know it. The SCB in Sweden, the UN organizations, they're all collecting the data, but the data has been already produced. The thing is that this data is national, is aggregate data that they are collecting and putting together. So you need to, if you're, for example, a company and you want to be part of the movement, and you want to shape what the vision that sustainability will eventually bring, that you know it or not, you need to find a middle step, because the goals are global and you are a unit in the system and in an aggregate statistic. So you can, if you read the indicators of the Agenda 2030, you will see that you actually cannot put on the website that you work with goal 5 and 17. It doesn't make any sense if you read the indicators. I understand that it makes sense to communicate that you're, as a communication tool, yeah, you can do whatever you want, but it doesn't make sense if you actually mean it. So you need to read indicators and then understand how are you at an individual scale contributing to the agenda, not to one goal or the other, because the goals are supposed to be indivisible. So you cannot cherry pick. It doesn't make sense. Of course, you will have a priority, but then you have to argue for it. You have to understand that you need to contribute to a national and global goal. So how are you going to do that is the question. So you have to have an answer, and that's what when I use the theory of change as a theoretical model.
What is it about?
The theory of change is actually a very old methodology, old in the sense that it's been used quite for a long time, over 20 years, and is used by SIDA quite a lot. It's been used in development work a lot, and it helps understanding designing for impact. And people use the word impact, but really what they mean is outcome or output.
What is the difference between impact, outcome, output?
Impact is is pretty much the big vision, the goal that you, with your idea, product, service, even company or municipality, city, can only contribute to.
Like sustainable cities. Is it an impact? Making a sustainable city?
Yeah, then of course you should have a definition. What is a sustainable city? But let's say you say, well, I want the city to be completely climate neutral, like no cars, completely pedestrian, whatever that is, youth friendly, or, say you have your definition. Of course, the bigger the organization and their current impact or their complexity, the more you need to go deeper. But so there are two layers, if that. Yeah, sorry. That's the boring part. But
no, I think
to me, it's the fun part, but I understand it's kind of like, is a nitty-gritty part, because you want to link your impact to your outcomes. All you can claim is your outputs, which is what you do, and your outcome. If you do that, what does it mean? Like, what does it change? What is the change you're bringing towards that impact that you're claiming? So, and all this has to be quantified. And so if you have an outcome and an output, then it's easy to find the indicators. What is the best way to measure this? And it's done also for social things. I hear a lot this idea that it's hard to measure social things or environmental impact is quite straightforward, but the social and the soft stuff is hard to measure. And I just think that there are some parts of society that are very good at that. Any marketing department mastered how to create data around emotion, feeling, we know how to do that. It's just about just doing it. I want to say something about impact measurement. I don't think that impact measurement, I think it should be a tool. I don't think it can ever be a goal. So it's important to understand that the agenda has indicators, and yes, you should try to understand how to measure, but not as a way to, not like a fascist way of measuring things, like with this control approach, but rather as a way to make sense of things, to really to learn more, to understand more what you're doing. Is more like a tool to be on top of what you're trying to do and not end up with an outcome or with an impact. Well, contributing to an impact that you actually didn't mean to, which happened a lot in development work in the beginning. That's why they adopted this methodology.
Marina, well, tell me about the project that you did.
About the why or the what or the how. I work with this different kind of services, but it's I would like to tell the story of the why, because hopefully I can link to regions. And I was in the Netherlands, in Maastricht, and there was an NGO locally working with the municipality that has managed to convince the municipality to act for the SDGs. So Maastricht is a small town. Not everybody has heard of the SDGs. It's not like in Sweden. Many people has heard of it and people are talking about it. But the minute you step out of Sweden and Denmark, nobody talks about the agenda. It's only in the hands of politicians. So, and what we did there is the NGO has done for a few months a campaign where they went around with a sign with Act for the SDGs, and they tried to raise awareness. They went into stores, the local bakery, whatever, and they tried to talk about what it is, and then they asked them, what can you do to contribute on the spot? So they did like a picture, and they had a whole Instagram hashtag for that. So they created this, bottom-up approach, right, where they go and raise awareness, and so it was really nice to watch online when they were doing this. So you see kids saying, this is what we do, I will don't, whatever they can do, and so they commit to it, right? They say, well, I pledge to never use a plastic straw or to, always ask for the vegan option, although I'm, whatever, when I go on Sundays, whatever the goal was. And so they did that. And then they had this moment where they gathered the community. And that's what I was invited at. And it was this one-day conference in the city hall. It was nice as a symbolic thing. And there what we did is we went into the why. So you gather the community and you ask them, so I started with a little bit of an introduction on the agenda, and then we looked into what is the vision. We wanted to find the vision for Maastricht, designed by the people, for the people, from the bottom up, but that has to be in line with the science of sustainability. So we put the boundaries of science. Some things we don't discuss, what creates emissions is clear, is scientific. I will never sit down and discuss that, And so we move on from there, and then what we do is we look into the beliefs, the belief system. So we go back and we say, if this is the vision you have, holding together, what are the beliefs that are holding you back? So then you have to go deeper, but inside of you, and then you do it as a community together.
Yeah,
you need to reflect,
because this is specific for each community. We are different, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it has to be authentic. It has to be genuine. It has to be meant, right? For it to make sense as a why you should do it. Otherwise, it doesn't activate anybody. It's just top down again, right? So you want people to really have a chance to reflect and think, whoever this person is that I probably haven't even met yet is saying that they want this for Maastricht, right? I don't really agree, but we're a community, we share the city. I want to know more, right? So they had to reflect and they had to go deeper inside and find out that what are the limiting beliefs that are holding them back. For example, there was one thing that came up quite a lot was this idea that there is a big international community. So it was about the international community feeling that they are not integrated in the community, right? And they thought, and I asked, why do you think that, right? Like, if you think of what is holding you back on both sides, right? And then it turned out that they had beliefs about what the locals were thinking that were just stories that were that people were telling, the new generation tells the old generation tells the new one of students. So there is this stories going on, right? It's all about stories anyway, right? And that was holding everybody back. So there was this story about what it means to be integrated in Maastricht as an international, that you will never be connected to the locals, that they don't care, and they try to exploit you when you rent your apartment, And then we fixed that. So that's a magical thing, because in a way, if that is fixed, then those people can work together. The students are a resource in the city, and they want to contribute. They had this. So then we moved on, right? And we said, okay, what needs to happen from now on to kind of restore him so that you can move closer to your vision? And then we looked into, for example, they came up with this idea that there should be a recycling system for all the things that apparently in the contracts, every student comes in and then they need to rebuy everything because the landowner doesn't want you to leave your things and sell them off to the next student coming into your apartment. So that means a lot of waste, insane amount of waste. In an educated city, like, you wonder, why is there no system for that? So they solved it. The locals, together with the international community, understood that was a challenge, that was silly, so to speak, and they had to fix it. And together they designed a solution on the spot, and they decided to create a subgroup that will create change. So, a lot of things happen when the community comes together. We just need more of those moments, because somehow we do it online, perhaps, but there is something that happens when you bring people together and you go deeper. People want to go deeper. People want to take that moment of reflection. It's powerful. It's a changing, it releases a lot of things that are holding you back.
Of course, I imagine it's also a big work that you put people together to agree about one belief and to make the image clear. But in this specific project, this was the initiative of the municipality, right? Or
it was the initiative of an NGO. So it's more like
so it's not the municipality.
No. Well, the municipality supported it in the end by giving the building and by, allowing people to have the meeting in the municipal building, and also by having the city mayor dropping in at the event and giving a little press release and leaving.
Yeah,
that was it.
But what do you think? Not every city have an NGO to do this initiative. Who should be the responsible to put people together?
I think anybody sitting right now and listening and thinking, I want to do this, is the right person. There has to be this person. Didn't have to create an NGO to do this. Anybody can. This is your life, your city, your future. as everybody else, if you for a second forget about all these structures that we create in society, like that somebody's in charge of something, or that somebody is in the position of, or that has access to, if you forget all about that and you just think of, I think that we need to reflect, and we need to talk about these things because they're important, and I need to do it with other people, because what's the point if, we need to do this together. And then you just start asking people, and you will be surprised about how much other people were thinking the same thing, and they are just happy, right, to do that. So it's always the case. Like, if you bring people together, they will be. You don't have to be in charge of an NGO or creating an NGO for that. You can do a meetup, you can do a digital event. It's for free. There is a lot of free things that anybody can do. And I really think that my invitation to everybody is to stop thinking that it's annoying to talk about sustainability and those changes in lifestyle. So, for example, should you eat meat or not? All this kind of little lifestyle, daily lifestyle things that we need to talk about. Like, should you drive the car if you live, in this part of town? Like, we all should take responsibility for creating these moments of kind reflection. So we don't want to judge anybody. Is a deep thing. And some people are not maybe in that moment in their life in the position to switch to a more sustainable lifestyle, and that's totally fine. We need to, in this part of the world, we have a bigger responsibility because we are in a safe environment where a lot is given. So we have the time to worry about these things, and we should. But even here, you need to be kind and need to be graceful when you talk about these things, because it's not productive to judge, especially if you want to include people, right? So I'm just talking to the sustainability people that are really committed and think we need to do something right now, right? As far as we do it with a smile and with kindness and with asking questions rather than telling people what to do, and ask them to reflect, you will see. It's called, in participatory processes, it's called giving ownership, right? You hand over the ownership of taking responsibility for things to others by just not telling them what to do, by rather asking them and inviting them to think about something. Once the power is decentralized, then that's when we will have the change. That's when we have social movements,
Exactly. And people feel that they are part of the change, and they take more responsibilities, and they do the change, actually, and they take care of the results.
Exactly.
And the impact.
Yeah.
But I believe that big work has big challenges. So what are the challenges that you're facing now while you're working with Beyond 2030? I guess it's a very special way of working with the Agenda 2030, and not everybody is open for this way of working or designing the future.
One is mine internal. I have to be self-reflective as well, and I'm a little bit holding back. Honestly, I could do more, and I feel like I'm not doing enough, and that's I should be gathering people for reflection even here in Stockholm. I just I'm trying to do it maybe step by step, though, so that's partly my thing. I'm not really going for it fully as I could. And the other thing is what I come across a lot is this idea that we know, like, we've already figured out, we are doing it, we're doing sustainability, we're doing Agenda 2030, what do you mean, And so that's my biggest challenge, to make people understand that sustainability is not about optimizing what already is out there today, but is about shifting paradigms. It really, if anybody has thought that it's very frustrating to work with sustainability because it never makes fully sense, it never seems to be achieved, like you can do a project, you can think like, oh, now we take away all the car, you go radical about it, and then it still doesn't make sense. It's probably because you're trying to, when you think about it, you're not thinking like I would say like a designer or an artist, you don't think in a reflective way where you understand that you have power to question things and to reflect about things and change them fundamentally, but you are trying to work within what's already there and try to make it a little better. If you're trying to make things a little better, you will not feel satisfied. We need to, as Johan Roxon would say, we need a paradigm shift. It's about sustainability is another paradigm. A sustainable paradigm is another paradigm. We cannot make the paradigm fit our current paradigm where we are at today. That's why it makes no sense. So it's about understanding that we need to transform and not those little small nice incremental changes that can make a lot of money in the short run. That will not help. That doesn't help.
And what is the status of the Agenda 2030? Are the countries transforming, or they are just optimizing the systems?
I think that there are both things happening in every country. I think that there is something bubbling up. I mean, if you ask from the beyond perspective, I would like to see more of this communities getting together and reflecting. I don't think we're reflecting. I think everybody thinks that you need to reach the goal. But if you take these goals as just a mean to an end, and you need to design the end still, then you're not doing it, right? So from my perspective, not enough. It's not enough how it's done today. On the other hand, I have to acknowledge that something is moving. And really, once again, it's not Agenda 2030 that has created the biggest shift. Is Greta Thunberg, honestly, and her movement and all her peers, all the students that are on Fridays striking for the climate, because their movement is beyond the climate. It's about biodiversity loss. It's about is about their whole generation and their lifestyle, and the question that poses them the question of what kind of life and what kind of why. And what kind of why do they want to design together that will change society?
Yeah, I feel the hope when I'm there every Friday, when we together meet and chit chat and look at this new generation. Do you believe if they take the decision, and if they make the decision, they will?
I think they are meeting, and they are every Friday. I mean, not all of them, of course, but the vast majority a good majority is meeting on Fridays, I would say. And they are reflecting on things, and they go deeper. They are very smart, of course. They have access to all the information, so they are young, but they are very informed and very smart. And so I hope that they will reflect and they will understand that they have so much power in designing society and letting the industry follow, and that they don't have to, and the politics, and that I hope they will use the power they have. That's my hope. I think that it gives me hope too.
Yeah, of course. But about
it has to be intentional. That's what I'm trying to say. If it's not intentional,
then there's no
if it's just a nice reflection and the next day you wake up and you keep going as normal,
that's useless. That's really useless.
Exactly.
But talking about gathering people together, sometimes it's difficult. How do you have any suggestion? How do you gather them?
Yes.
I see.
I've thought about it a lot.
You just jump.
I was hoping for the question. No, the participatory processes is to design and facilitate participatory processes is my core skill within sustainability. So I've been tried and figure things out for a long time, and the fact that it's hard or that is low is just is first of all not true, and it's an excuse, right? So if anybody wants to do things from the bottom up in a participatory way, in a democratic way, etc., it's actually the fastest way in the long run, is the smoothest way in the long run, and the most efficient way in the long run, right? There is a trick. I'm from Italy. I've lived in Sweden for 10 years, and I can tell you one thing. In the first 5 years being here, 3 years being here, I thought Italians or Southern Europeans are just more social, right? I don't understand how to socialize here. It's different, right? And I thought, wow, people in the South are more social, right? And then going back Christmas after Christmas, for a while, I realized, wait a minute, it's not that people in other parts of the world are more social. It's just that they share meals together more, and Are
you kidding or what?
If you try this out, If you bring food, there will be people coming, no matter what. And if it's good food, if it's, maybe it's healthy food, maybe you're trying to get people off from sugar, whatever, you can create your own concept like baking, whatever. If you bring food, people will come. Because people need food, they will eat at some point. So if you eat together, guess what? You have some time to chat together.
Yeah, we have more energy to talk.
Yes, so I really think it's hilarious. It sounds silly, but try. If you do an event and it's no food, you will see that people participate differently. They socialize differently. The dynamics are different. It doesn't, it's not only food. But
of course.
It's about the energy and the atmosphere.
I agree with you, because when I work with the urban planning, in Sweden we call it medborgardialog, that you talk with the citizens about the future of the area.
Yeah.
And yes, coffee is numero uno.
Fika,
This
in
number
fact,
one.
yeah.
This number one. That if you don't have coffee,
Right.
no one will show
Yeah.
up. Of course, some people will show up.
Yeah.
But if you want the majority of
Yeah.
the community,
Yeah.
then if you level it up with food and some sweet,
Yeah.
then you have everyone on board.
Yeah, because then in a way, you're not taking anybody's time. You're just saying this is a very humble human moment that we share together so we can have humble human deeper conversation. It's fine, right? Somehow the atmosphere changes, you know?
Yeah, of course.
And people will have to eat. So if you can solve a problem, people will be grateful, you know, they will come.
So if I understand right, it's like one of the tricks that you should have food to bring people together.
Yeah, it definitely helps. Another thing about participatory methods and bringing people together, you don't need 100%. You don't need 80%. You don't need 70%. You probably need around 20%, you know? You don't want everybody to be there. It's a paradox that you want things to be from the bottom up and you want everybody to participate, but that is not gonna happen. If you want everybody to participate and you really mean it, then if you really want to do it, you can divide everything. You have to understand what are the interests of all the subgroups, and then how can you make them interested in their own ways. So you bring small community around a transversal topic together. You know, you design a calling question that is transversal, so that different people from different communities will join around a certain interest, right? The minute you design the question a little bit different, then other people will show up, you know? So it's more like the goal is never to have every single individual. The goal is to have those who have something to say, who wants to say something, because those that are not really interested or not interested right at this moment or in that way of you formulating your question for why they should be there or your title of the event, then it's fine. You don't need everybody. There is always like this kind of egg model, like there is the yellow part and the white part, and we're social beings, so we follow. You don't need to convince everyone separately. You need to understand the sociological dynamic that people are in. So if a group of people is a critical mass, you're aiming for the critical mass, and so in some groups it's 3 people, in some groups it's 200, and in some groups it's 20,000. So just try to figure out what is the critical mass of people. What is about 25% of people?
Exactly. It's about first understanding the people first, like which are the different groups and their behavior, what time they want to meet and when they are able to, and then you design your model.
Yeah, I guess it's more about understanding their interests and designing around their interests. What is, for example, I was working on this energy transition project in a small community in Skåne. And the first time I did the workshop, it was about energy transition, and this community is very aware. It was a strong community that is used to meet, you know, they do investments together, they co-buy things, you know, so they're very tight. So I thought, yeah, what's the problem? You just invite them on a new topic, they will come, right? And only 4 engineers came. if you say we need to talk about the energy system, of course, you will attract the people that think they can talk about the energy system or that are interested in that because maybe it's their passion or whatever. But I realized, but I cannot run this only with 4 engineers. That would not be participatory enough, right? So I should change the question. And so I had to figure out, what do people care about? Why are those people part of this community? Why do they move here, right? And it was their connection with nature and their willingness to live a high quality life. Like they want a quality of life that is high, right? So fresh air, access to nature, all these things. So I just changed the question to, how can the life quality in this community remain the same or become even better in the future? And then a whole different bunch of people showed up. So that's kind of the idea. So it's about the interest. What do people need? And that's something that entrepreneurs are very good at. So if anybody's struggling in finding the right thing, entrepreneurs are the pros of that, because if they don't solve any person needs or interest, they won't sell. So those skills are all out there, and we just need to learn from each other. We need to
exactly. But going back to the beginning of the participation story, when you were telling like 10 years in Sweden, and you figure out like what could gather people as well. Do you find the majority of people in Sweden willing to meet and talk about the topic? Or
the people I meet, yes. I think also because they know that's I kind of carry that character a little bit, so every time that I'm somewhere, we all end up talking about sustainability and the future of humanity and whatnot. So in a way I'm the wrong person to ask to, because I kind of, that's my whole life about. So
it's your everyday life.
Yeah. So, and people know, and just, then I will just go straight into this deep question with anybody at any point.
Yes.
So,
Marina, what is the future of Beyond 2030? What is the vision, the plan?
yes, I was at Almedalen this year for the first time. I just wanted to see what it is. Very interesting Swedish concept again. And there I got to know a person from Pakistan that will come this year to represent the country. And so this person just listened a little bit to what I was doing and pretty much told me, excuse me, if you really want to help the world or whatever, make an impact, why are you keeping this to yourself? Like, if you imagine that you have platforms like Facebook, digital platforms, right? Why are you not just sharing this stuff so that people that maybe don't have the opportunity to come to Sweden and do all this, like 10 years in Sweden and experience things from another perspective, from a country that has a tradition around sustainability, that has figured a lot of things out, why don't you just share? And I was like, oh, that's true. Like, you don't think about it, but so I thought maybe I can share online. So maybe the Beyond 2030 will be more of an online platform where anybody from anywhere at any time can
access it.
Yeah.
And learn.
Yes. So it's more, I will start online with mindset trainings, because to me sustainability is a mindset shift. If we try to make it a list of principle or a certain a characteristic of a product or service or an idea, then we are not getting anywhere. Everybody gets frustrated. But if you get the mindset of how to think in terms of sustainability, so you understand the planetary boundaries, system thinking, you understand the trades-off, you understand that things are interconnected, and you understand to not think linear but think in a synthetic way, not in an analytical way, then all of a sudden you don't have it. It's not that hard, it's not that, so I've tried to understand sustainability at a depth that is easier to train other people on. So, but I train people on the mindset. I don't come with the details like this material, material.
Yeah, exactly. That's really a great approach, and I'm looking forward to start to listen to these videos. I don't know how you're going to do it, but the changing the mindset is, I think that it's the step 0. And
yes,
then step number
exactly.
1 is to apply.
Yes, then everybody can contribute.
Yeah. Is it going to be addressed to which group? Is it adults, young people, for everyone? Like, who is your audience if you thought about it? Or I don't know, maybe you didn't start yet in this project.
Yeah. I will try to do a lot of free things online. I'm not sure if it's Facebook or YouTube, I don't know. But maybe it should be a podcast, maybe. So that I just try to discuss things. I do it a little bit on LinkedIn and some platforms on LinkedIn. But I would like to target the first course for professionals, people that it doesn't matter how old you are and if you have a degree or not. The idea is that you can be creating a career and starting and maybe upgrading your career or transforming your career towards sustainability and start contributing. So you can be any profession. If you get the mindset, then you will be, I see it as an activation, because there is so much knowledge out there. There are so many knowledgeable people, competent people about so many different things. What if they got the mindset and really understood sustainability beyond business or politics, in the scientific way? And what can they create if they get into this, if they align their mindset with what the science says? It would be inspiring. I just made a post yesterday on accountants. Like, what can accountants do for sustainability? They have a huge power.
Wow.
But everybody thinks that sustainability people will solve
exactly.
Sustainability
Who
or politicians.
Who could believe that every single one of us?
Everybody,
can really change.
100%.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I'm looking forward that you start being active and share, especially it's open source. So that's gonna be really amazing. Marina, 2 last questions. I will not take much more of your time.
Yeah.
First one is the 3 takeaway messages, and the second one is 3 hashtags for this great episode.
Well, that's actually a tough question. So I will go with try to gather people together in your community, even if it's just your 3 friends, even if it's just your family. Just try to start this conversation about what is life about. I mean, what do we want from our life? How do we want to live our lives in 20 to 30 years? Right? Do we want to work full time? Do we want to drive car? What is it? How does it actually look like? Be very specific, and maybe do small little workshop with your family on, a Saturday evening, or with your friends. Just take the time to try. It's worth it. It's fun. It gives you a lot of insights, and it helps you make decisions on a daily life when it comes to sustainability. So make a sharp vision is one of them. Be kind to each other when it comes to sustainability. Nobody can do it perfectly, because we all live in this, economy and society. So until we transition, we cannot do it perfectly. So let's be kind to each other. And the third thing is, your mindset is everything. As a human being, if you want to achieve your potential, you need to work on your mindset, and everything will follow. It's not about things. It's not about technology. It's not about some magical thing will happen. It all starts with you being reflective and sharpening and shifting your mindset. So the hashtags will be go beyond Agenda 2030. If you're working with if you're a professional listening. If you're a private person, it will be mindset. Work on your mindset, and your reality will change. It sounds cheesy. It sounds but it's just how it works. And dream big. I mean, dream big, because I don't think we have even scratched the surface of what human beings can do. We are still too close of this idea that we definitely are animals, right? And we definitely have limitations. But when it comes to the brain, neuroscience is quite a new science, and we're just scratching the surface of what we're capable of doing, and we need to, define that, especially when it comes to technology, because our brain does not distinguish, apparently, between what's real and what's digital. So we need to be very careful and very reflective about what we want the technology to do for us.
That's so amazing. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for everything you shared with us.
Thank you for inviting. It feels great to start talking about these things.
I'm really happy. I'm really happy. I have the pleasure, and I think I will listen to this episode so many times, because it's not only 3 takeaway messages, to be honest. All your words were great. Thank you, Marina.
Thank you.
Hopefully see you in the future.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes. Thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica podcast. I am Mustafa Sharif, and have a good life.